Welcome back to Life with Shan. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about my European road trip that I went on this past May of 2022. I went on this trip with the tour company called EF Ultimate Break, and I had so much fun. I highly recommend this trip to everyone. A little bit about EF Ultimate Break is that they are a travel company that pairs you with other people around your age. I believe that their age range is 18 to 35 right now, and that way you're never alone during your trip. So I flew out to London alone, not knowing people in my group, and then getting paired up with different people, rooming with different people, and finding new friends that I'm still friends with now, which was just only a part of the fun, but it was a lot of fun. One thing about EF Ultimate Break is that you get a lot of things included. They can be a little pricey, but because of how much they include and the fact that you don't have to plan things on your own, helps the trip feel more like a vacation. You can be relaxed a little bit more, you know you're going to be safe. For me and my family, one big thing was that I knew I had an emergency contact wherever I was. I have traveled solo before, completely solo, as a young female, and it can be a little nerve-wracking, so it was nice to know that when traveling internationally, I always had people in the area that I could call if I needed help for anything, or if I was just lost and I needed them to help me figure out how to get back to the hotel. 17 days, 2 of the days are travel days. I left Tampa, Florida around noon. I flew out United, and then I flew to Newark, and then I flew from Newark to London, and then I went through customs. I did that alone, and then I met up with a chauffeur, and he introduced me to some of the other people that he was picking up from the airport in our group, and the chauffeur and my new group members drove to the hotel, and we hung out there and kind of regrouped. I ate, I changed clothes, and then we went off to London for the day. And throughout that first day in London, a lot of people were still arriving. I got in around 8 a.m. Other people didn't get in until 4 p.m. London time, so it's a little different for everyone. We did have our welcome dinner that first night in London. Our tour director coordinated the welcome dinner in town, and he helped guide us through the tube and taking the bus system all the way down to where the dinner was, and then he helped make sure we knew how to get home. Before the trip, he made a WhatsApp group for us. We also had a Facebook group, but through the WhatsApp group, we were able to communicate as an entire group to say, hey, this is where we are, and just help make sure everyone was safe. The second day in London, we did a walking tour early on in the day, so that way everybody could be familiar with the area, get some history. We learned a lot of cool things that I wouldn't have thought to look up or know on my own. We did get on and off the bus during that tour to hop around a little bit. And then the only thing with the walking tour that was a little was that it was typical London weather. It was cold, it was rainy, and this Floridian was not used to it, but you got the full experience for sure. And then after the walking tour, there was an excursion for people to do the London Eye and a tea party. Me and a few others did not do that excursion prior to the trip. I have an aunt and uncle who travel a lot, and they recommended not to do the London Eye. I'm glad I didn't. I got to get closer to people in my group that didn't do it, and we got to go experience a museum. I got comfortable in London, and we also did the Sherlock Holmes pub, which I thought was really cool. I actually did that twice during that trip. And then after the excursion, a bunch of other people got out. Once they finished the excursion, we then went off and got dinner with different people in our group. But a lot of people who did the excursion said they really liked it. The Eye was kind of cool because you got to see the rest of London, but it was really slow and it took a lot of time. And it's your second day on the trip, so you're a little anxious to get going and experience a lot of things. So a lot of people felt a little stuck on the London Eye, but they did really enjoy the tea party, which I'm glad they did. And then we had one more day in London. It was quite a bit of downtime. I believe that whole day was free time, so I ended up going and seeing Wicked with friends. I went to King's Cross Station. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you know what I'm talking about. We ate at a cute cafe, and then I ended up walking through Waterstone because this book reader wanted to experience Waterstone, so I got a Harry Potter edition, 25th edition of at Waterstone, which was cool. And then after London, we had another night at our hotel, and then we got on a train early the next morning and we went to Amsterdam. Amsterdam was a little different. We were all getting kind of tired, the jet lag was hitting us, and it took us a little while to get more comfortable with Amsterdam, because in London, everybody speaks English. It's just a different form of English, but everybody speaks it. You can get what you want across, you can understand more, but the culture shock once we got to Amsterdam was a lot different. We did get to the hostel, we hung out a little bit, a few of us went out and we got dinner, and then we ended up meeting up at this main square with our tour director and other people in our group to do the Amsterdam Canal Cruise that our tour director put together. Again, this is not an official excursion from EF. This was just something our tour director put together and asked if we wanted to do, and we all just paid him, and then he gave all the money to the guy putting together the Canal Cruise. The Canal Cruise I highly recommend. I think almost everyone in our group did it. It was a great bonding experience. It was so much fun. It was one of the best ways to experience Amsterdam. That's a little different than walking around or biking Amsterdam. And it was just, that was a one-of-a-kind experience. We saw the sunset and people waved to us. I really enjoyed the Canal Cruise. Then after that, a bunch of us went around. I got dessert, as I usually do. Some people went to the cafes, some of them went to check out the red light district, and then the next morning we did a walking tour, and I really appreciated these walking tours because they taught me things that I didn't know to look into. I learned a lot of different things that I wouldn't have cared to look into or learn. And now when I travel on my own, I'm probably going to do a lot of walking tours because it's just a fun way to learn things that you wouldn't learn if you just went on your own and kind of blindly sightseeing. So yeah, we did a walking tour in Amsterdam. That was fun. A lot of us were a little tired from the Canal Cruise, which had free alcohol, so a lot of us were hungover too. And then after the Amsterdam Canal Cruise, we just kind of all went off on our own and had free time. Some of us went to the Anne Frank house. We did a biking tour, which was an official excursion with EF Ultimate Break, and I did it. The only thing was it was raining and a lot of us were not comfortable on the bike, so it was a little scary. But halfway through we did get a crepe, so that was fun, and then we biked back and then we got to walk around. And then at this point it was raining the rest of the day, so that kind of hindered the Amsterdam experience, but I still really enjoyed it. I walked around in the rain. I highly recommend bringing a raincoat on this trip, clearly. I think we only had rain in London and Amsterdam. And then after Amsterdam, we went to Paris, which was what I was most excited for. I will say that in Paris, it was very, very rushed. We probably had, I'd say, 38 hours in Paris, and a lot of that we tried to sleep because we were all tired. We got to Paris. We unloaded our stuff, we changed in the hostel. It was evening time, so we went with our tour director. He taught us how to use the metro system. We got into town, he showed us the Eiffel Tower, and he said, "You're on your own." And so a few of us actually went straight from there around 7 p.m. and we went to the Eiffel Tower, and we asked if we could get tickets to go up because it was perfect timing. It was still sunlight out. By the time we got up to the top, there was still sunlight. It was starting to set, and then we got to see the first light show on the Eiffel Tower. I'll post a video here. My favorite part was that the sun was setting and there was a rainbow, so I really enjoyed that. And then after the Eiffel Tower, we went down and we watched the light show from the ground, and we were really hungry because we kind of missed dinner since we wanted to make sure we got to the top of the Eiffel Tower before sunset. So then we kind of wandered around until we could find food, and then we took the subway back to the hostel, and then the next morning we had a bus tour around Paris, which I really enjoyed the bus tour because we saw a lot of things. We did not get close up to Notre Dame or the Louvre, but we went to a garden and got out and walked around that I wouldn't have thought to do. We went to a cafe shop that she got us into in and out really quick, and then after the bus tour we went to Versailles, which was an official excursion with EF. I highly recommend it. It's an amazing experience. You get kind of fast passes using EF with your tour guide, and you get a lot of information. The only thing is that we only had about a day in Paris, so Versailles felt rushed. Everything after that felt rushed. I had a group of friends, I think there were 4 or 5 of us, and we all were like, these are the things we want to do today. So we literally just mapped it out on the metro system after Versailles, and we just went everywhere we could, and we just kind of took a picture in front of the Louvre. Okay, now we're gonna walk over to Shakespeare & Co. Take a picture, there's a long line, you can't go in. We did the same thing with Notre Dame. And then we ended up going back to the Eiffel Tower and doing a picnic, and we got drinks and food and macarons, and I got flowers, and we all watched the light show from there, which was a nice way to end the Paris day because everything else felt frantic, but at least I felt like we got to just sit down and enjoy one another's company and appreciate the Eiffel Tower, which is a very stereotypical Paris thing to do, or American traveler in Paris thing to do, but I enjoyed it. And then the next day we took a bus to Switzerland, and Switzerland was a lot of fun. It was a big surprise for me. My big thing about this trip was getting to do Paris. Was a little bummed that we had a short amount of time, but I really made the most of it. And then anything after that was kind of just a cherry on top of the cake for me. We took the bus to Lucerne and the Swiss Alps. Our hostel was like a 20-minute walk from town, so we were all kind of bummed by that, but we ended up, a lot of us, walking into town together, and we just enjoyed the experience, hanging out with our tour director and our new friends. And then we loved the swans that were in Lake Lucerne, and we just enjoyed the experience. And then we would walk back after eating. We slept, and then the next morning we did the excursion hike up the Swiss Alps, which wasn't too much of a hike. We took a boxcar, a boxcar up to the top of the Swiss Alps. It was about an hour drive from our hostel. So we took the boxcar up to the Swiss Alps. We got to enjoy the views. You could eat lunch up there, but in Switzerland is one of the most expensive countries you can go to. They have a different currency, and being on top of a mountain in Switzerland, it is a lot more expensive. I think we got a water for the table, and it was 10 francs, which was, I think, 11 euros or 11 USD, just for a water bottle. So that was a little ridiculous. I recommend bringing your own water if you can. The views were spectacular. It was a one-of-a-kind experience. I would definitely do it again. And then after that, we all kind of just enjoyed the day. A few of us that evening actually left the hostel and went into like a beach area, and we all swam in the water, which I really enjoyed. And then the next day we took a bus, and throughout the bus ride we went to Lake Como, which was a lot of fun. A few of us, we had about an hour in Lake Como. We ate, we swam, and then that was it. We were done with Lake Como, but it was cool. We got to say we went to Lake Como. It was a nice rest stop. And then we went to the Venice region. And in Venice, I was kind of okay. It wasn't the best first impression of Italy for me, at least during this trip. We had a few hours in Venice itself, and it was just shopping. We did do a walking tour, which I really appreciated. We learned about the flooding. We went to a bookstore that used books that were destroyed from the flooding to make like a stairway, which was cool. And they taught us a lot about the glass. And the walking tour was interesting. I did feel very bad because I personally was falling asleep. It's been a long trip so far, but we learned a lot. And then after that was just a lot of shopping. We did do the gondola, which is basically like a canal cruise through Venice. And after Venice, we did do a wine tasting, which was a lot of fun. I personally don't drink, so a lot of my friends that I was hanging out with that night would drink my wine, and I got part of their food, and it was just a really interesting experience. We got there late, so we didn't get to see the vineyard or anything, but we were basically in these family's house. It was a family-owned business, and some of the people would cook for us, some of them showed us the wine, and some of the people in my group bought wine after that. And then afterwards we ended up going to Florence, which was fun. We did a walking tour in Florence. It was just a quick trip to Florence. We ate. We were all getting kind of tired of pasta at that point. I had gelato every day, if not 2 or 3 times a day, and I was not tired of the gelato. Florence was fun. I would recommend doing that. We got to learn about the leather bags, and we also got told what a fake leather bag looks like and how to know when you've been ripped off, and a lot of our group was laughing because we had all just been ripped off. I do not recommend getting leather bags from the streets if you want a real one. They are nice either way. And then the last bit of the trip, we were in Rome, and Rome was beautiful. It was a lot of fun. We were there for 2.5 days essentially with travel times. Our hostel in Rome wasn't my favorite, but it was still nice and cozy. At that point in the trip, I knew who I wanted to room with, and that made it a little easier to plan things for the next day. One thing I highly recommend is doing the Vatican excursion in Rome. If you want to go underneath the Trevi Fountain, which you can do, I actually learned that through TikTok before my trip. You need to book that in advance. The best gelato place in Rome is Giolitti. It is kind of in the center of town. Highly recommend. I even told a cab driver that I really like that place, and he said it was the best of the best. In Rome, EF offers the catacombs excursion, and not enough people on our tour booked it, so they ended up canceling the catacomb excursion. And my aunt and uncle, who gave me great trip recommendations for this trip, recommended not doing the catacombs and not wasting the limited time I had there to do that. We did see the Colosseum with a walking tour. We did not go into it. That's something I wish I had known in advance. It was very hot in Rome. You want to wear hats if you can. You want to have portable fans if you can. You do not want to be miserable. Honestly, it was just really hot, and that was in early June. But we still had a lot of fun. Rome was busy, it was poppin', and it was the last few nights of the trip, so we all ended up staying up late every night and just hanging out and getting together. And then the very last night of our trip, a lot of us just hung out kind of outside on the hostel patio and drank the wine that they bought at the wine tasting. And then the next day we all flew our separate ways, and the whole group ended up WhatsApping each other for about a week or so, and then after that the people who were close on the trip kind of branched off on their own. Yeah, that was the European road trip. I will share some photos and stuff here, and I hope you give it a try. A few things I recommend is that it is a road trip, so make sure you keep that in mind. When you are on the road, it is a great time to catch up on sleep. If you're doing this trip, I recommend bringing a portable fan, portable charger, and I brought a Brita water bottle, so it had a filter in it. That way you can drink anywhere. You don't feel like you need to buy bottles of water every time you're at a rest stop, and you can just fill it up whenever you want. A lot of the drinking water in Europe is clean, so you don't necessarily need a filter, but I know us Americans are used to that. So if it's something that will bring you a little extra comfort, I highly recommend the Brita water bottle. I did bring a medium-sized suitcase and a backpack. That's what I brought for my trip. I recommend getting compressible packing cubes so they can squeeze down. Bring Tide to-go sticks. One girl on our trip brought one, and I used that probably more than she did because I'm a very messy person. A lot of people want to journal during their trip but end up not because you're tired, so I recommend taking notes in your notes section on your phone. That way you can just remember little things. And another thing I did was I created a shared photo album on my iPhone, and I just sent that to everyone who wanted photos from me daily. So at the end of every day, I wasn't sitting down and texting my mom, texting my dad, texting my aunt. I was just uploading it to everyone all at once, and they could comment, they could text me, they could like photos. And then I also uploaded my itinerary to that and the hotels I was staying at, so that way my family knew. If you are looking to book the European road trip or any EF trip, I have a code below that you can use. It's in the description below. And if you want to join me on an EF Ultimate Break trip, I will be doing Greece May 28th. That will be a fun one. That's open to a lot of people. I do get a group discount for you. If you want to sign up, you can comment below and I'll help get you coordinated. I'm also doing Iceland next September of 2023 as a group trip with EF Ultimate Break. So if you want to join me or you just want to sign up on your own EF trip, look below, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this video.